Why is this ring light always just dancing around? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be sharing my top 5 concealers, the best of the best concealers I've ever tried that work beautifully on lines and wrinkles, that give us a smooth airbrushed under eye, that don't crease, don't settle, don't fade throughout the day, aren't heavy, are comfortable and hydrating to wear, all of the good stuff. So if that sounds good to you, then let's get started. Okay, so just a bit about me before we get started so you can know what my skin type and everything like that is, to make sure that we are kind of on the same page of what we look for in a concealer. So I literally just now, right now, turned 39, so I'm approaching 40 over the next 12 months. My under eye is definitely not the most mature skin that is possible, that has ever been seen by the human eye, but it's also not what it was when I was like 20. So I definitely have some lines and wrinkles and texture around my under eye area. I also have some darkness, but I do like a full coverage concealer. I like something that's going to hide everything, hide all the darkness, tiredness, everything, the stress of my life, my sleepless nights, without looking heavy, without aging the under eye area, without going cakey or feeling just like tight and uncomfortable throughout the day. That is what I look for. I have a normal skin type, no excess oiliness, no dryness, but the under eye area is delicate. So I do like a little bit of hydration there without like it being shiny and without sort of drawing attention there with a super luminous finish. So that's kind of my preferences and what I look for in a concealer. I thought it would be helpful to rank my top 5 today, because concealer is like every makeup product in that they don't work the same. Regardless of even someone the same age as me with the same skin type does not guarantee that my favorite product will work exactly the same way for you. That is just the annoying thing about makeup. It likes to just mess with our feelings. We don't know why. So my holy grail, my number 1 concealer, may actually be something that you've tried and didn't get along with. So today I'm going to give you five options that if you have yet to find a holy grail concealer that works for you and gives you what you want it to give you, then hopefully there's one in this top 5 that is going to be your holy grail. That being said, I think it's important as we get older to have realistic expectations. None of these concealers are going to take us back to our 20s. None of these concealers are going to look the same on our under eye area as they will on someone who's 15 years old, with no aging and very little stress in their life. They just aren't. And no concealer is really going to improve like the look, the appearance of lines and wrinkles. It may cover darkness and it may not enhance or make worse lines and wrinkles, but any makeup, you know, on an area like our under eyes is going to be heavier than no makeup. So we have to manage those expectations. They're not going to solve all of our problems. They're not going to be like Botox. They're not going to completely eliminate all texture, lines and wrinkles. So, you know, we just have to have slightly more realistic expectations and then we can't be disappointed. So starting off in 5th place, the oldest of the 5 concealers that I'm going to talk about, and it's the Hourglass concealer. When this first launched, this quickly became my holy grail, but it only kept top spot for like a month or so, because right after this one was released, a couple of others that are ranked above this one were released like right after it, and so it quickly got bumped off of top spot. But it is always a solid, great concealer. It has a beautiful light but creamy texture to it. It has a really solid medium to full coverage. It has a really nice doe foot that is very gentle. It has a very precise tip that allows you to get right down the bridge of your nose, really carve out your eye and really get close into the corner of your eye without poking yourself, without it being uncomfortable. I find this to be a very smooth concealer and it feels nice and comfortable under the eye. It doesn't crease. None of the concealers I'm going to talk about today crease or settle or move around. They are all excellent concealers. There's just slight little things that I prefer about each of them to kind of separate them, but these are all very close, very good concealers. This is just the one that for me, it doesn't quite look as flawless as the ones that come above it. Next up, I'm going to talk about the most expensive concealer in this lineup with a shocking price tag, and it's the Chanel Le Sublimage CORRECTEUR. This is a beautiful concealer. A couple of things that kind of knock it down a peg or two. This would be a bit higher in my top 5 if it wasn't for A, the packaging, and B, the price point. There isn't enough sort of special about this concealer to kind of overcome the packaging, because it's beautiful and gorgeous and very luxurious to look at, but it's really impractical. It's very, very messy. I spoke about this in the review. Once you open it, it doesn't really feel luxurious anymore because it's all over the lid. It gets all over you, and I don't like that at all. I don't really like a pot concealer as it is. I'd far prefer a doe foot because it's just, you know, eliminates the need to pick up an extra brush. And yeah, so having to kind of dip in here, it's less hygienic. It feels like you're, you know, really struggling to control the amount of product that you get. So those couple of little things about this concealer are what keeps it in 4th place. But the product itself is glorious. It's a beautiful, very nice concealer. You need a tiny amount and it covers very, very well without ever feeling heavy. This one also has a very nice hint of luminosity to the finish. It's not super glowy. It's not like the Charlotte Tilbury that is super glowy, or the Nars Radiant Creamy. It doesn't have that much luminosity, but it's just got a hint of light to the finish, which I really love. And it's a beautiful, beautiful concealer. It's very lightweight and feels very hydrating and luxurious. But the reason it's in like 4th place is just because, one, I don't like the packaging and the method that I have to use to apply this. I find it trickier than the ones that come above it. And for the price, I think you're better off buying the 3 that come above it rather than forking out like 3 times as much for a similar, almost undetectable difference. I did a side by side with this one and one of the others that I'm going to talk about that is literally a third of the price, and they were almost identical. So for me, I'd rather have the ease of a doe foot than have to deal with that pot and the mess and everything that comes with it and pay a third of the price for essentially the exact same result. Now we're going into the top 3, and these top 3 are all and have all been holy grails over the last couple of years. These are all exceptional, excellent concealers that do everything I want them to do. There are very minute differences and reasons that I've ranked them in the way that I have, but in 3rd place, a former holy grail for literally years, is the Pat McGrath concealer. This is an excellent concealer. It was the first concealer I found that gave me actual full coverage of my under eye darkness, that I actually really loved how it looked. It's a beautiful high coverage concealer. It's got a matte finish, so the Chanel is more radiant than the Pat McGrath. Definitely a kind of classic matte finish. Absolute full coverage, covers everything I have to hide and sometimes more. This one has a really diddy doe foot in comparison to all of the others. Very, very small doe foot, which makes it again very easy to get a really close application to where you want it, but also to control the amount of product because it doesn't pick up a lot. In fact, a lot of the time I will almost like double dip and go back and add more because it's really easy with this one to control the amount of product. It's also a nice small packaging. It's a really good price point, especially being Pat McGrath. They have an exceptional shade range, and this one for me is very flattering. Doesn't exaggerate lines and texture, wears very, very beautifully, and just gives me a very flawless under eye, which I absolutely love. This is the first concealer that I found that really ticked all of the boxes without there being like a compromise. It covered my darkness. It did not crease. It wore beautifully. It gave me a really flawless finish. It wasn't super luminous, and it had an excellent shade for me winter and summer. They have olive undertones, which is a real real game changer for me, trying to find actual olive undertone concealer. Basically doesn't exist in very many places, so that was all real bonus points for the Pat McGrath. I like the glass packaging, it's very minimal but chic. Love everything about this concealer. So now in second place, until very recently, I'd say even the past week or so, my previous Holy Grail concealer, and that was the Huda Beauty. This is almost identical to the Pat McGrath. Everything I've just told you about the Pat McGrath also applies to the Huda Beauty. There is almost no difference between these two when it comes to like formula, coverage, etc. The couple of little things that slightly edge for me for the Huda Beauty over the Pat McGrath. One, you almost get double the amount of product for the Huda. The Huda you get 9ml, the Pat McGrath is only 5. So that's a big amount of product difference. So, you know, if we're nitpicking between two that look almost identical under the eye, then the amount of product you get makes a difference. It's also just far easier for me to get the Huda Beauty. I know that seems like not a reason to rank it higher, but they literally are almost identical between the formulas. So, you know, it's these little things that separate them. This does have plastic packaging. It does feel lighter and less luxurious, but the product inside is amazing. It's got such good coverage. Again, covers everything I could possibly want it to cover. And it does so in a really flattering, smooth way without creasing, without separating or doing that little splitting thing that some concealers do in your lines, and it wears really beautifully as well. Again, a kind of classic matte finish to this concealer, very similar to the Pat McGrath and the Hourglass. Again, up until this point, the only one really with some luminosity is the Chanel. So the others that we've talked about so far, all a kind of similar matte, soft matte finish. The other thing that is different about the Huda is it has a much larger doe foot than the Pat McGrath or the Hourglass. This is quite a whopper. It does kind of have an edge and a bit of a slant, so that does help when trying to carve out your eye line, but it is tricky to get that close enough to the eye. So that is possibly the one kind of negative about this concealer, is the doe foot is a bit bigger than I wish it was. It's just kind of hard to get right into the corner of the eye. It's kind of hard to get down the bridge of your nose without, you know, making the application too wide or without putting too much. It's kind of tricky to work with. I wish the doe foot was a little bit smaller, but that is the only negative I have to say about the Huda. And now you must be wondering, or perhaps you've already worked it out, what is in top spot? What has bumped the Huda down a spot, and how has it done it? I hear you cry. Well, in first place, it's the new or the reformulated Dior concealer. This is the Forever Skin Correct, and this just came in and stole my heart right out of Huda's arms, okay? Now, it has a lot of similarities to a lot of the concealers in this lineup, as in it has amazing full coverage with a very small amount. What separates this one out for me when you compare it to these other four in this lineup, one is the packaging is my favorite of all of these. It's a beautiful glass bottle, very elegant, feels weighty, feels luxurious, feels worth the price point. The doe foot is absolutely perfect for me. Although it is almost as large as the Huda Beauty one, this one has a much more sort of precise tip and it slants more. So that gives you, you know, if you turn it on its other edge, a very precise side to carve out your eyes, to go down your nose, or to get close to your inner eye. So that's what makes it work, although the doe foot is quite large, so you can deposit quite a bit of product in one go if you would like. It also gives you that precise option with that really fine edge, which I really appreciate. This is also the largest fill size, so you get 11 mils versus 9 from Huda, you know, 5 from the Pat McGrath. This is more than double the amount of the Pat McGrath, so I really appreciate that. The other thing that kind of really separates this one is the finish. It is a much more hydrating, slightly luminous finish than the others. And it says on the bottle, 24-hour wear and hydration, creamy concealer with full coverage. And it does exactly what it says on the bottle for me. It feels much more light and hydrating and fresh under my eyes when I use this concealer versus like these two. That is what kind of makes the difference. How it feels very lightweight. I also feel that it has a much thinner formula, a thinner consistency, so you don't need as much, but it still has as much coverage as the others, which feel heavier and thicker when you apply them. This one feels very light, has a very light texture, but it doesn't sort of blend away to nothing. You still have that coverage despite it looking and feeling much lighter on the under eye area, which I really love. And it has a bit of lightness, a bit of luminosity without it, you know, drawing attention to texture or exaggerating anything. Just feels and looks a bit brighter, lighter and fresher, and it definitely feels it. It's just more comfortable for me, and I really appreciate and notice that. Although the sort of appearance of it is very close between these three, and also between all of those that I've spoken about in this lineup, none of these crease on me, none of them kind of have darkness peeking through still. I don't have any issues with covering and wearing with any of these top 5 concealers, but the difference for me with this one is actually how it feels. It just feels nicer, lighter, fresher, more hydrated, and I feel like that hint of luminosity in the finish also just gives my under eyes a bit more of a fresh, awake quality, which it's hard to come by around here. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 concealers ranked for you. Please let me know what your current holy grail concealer is. Do you have the same as me? Do you have any of the same favorites as I do? Please let us know your concealer recommendations in the comments section down below, because sharing is caring. It really is. But I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.